Listen, I know you're sitting there at home watching this video, telling yourself how important it is to understand social media at a super high level today, but you're frustrated because you feel like people are doing it in such a way that doesn't really speak to who you are. You think you have to sell your soul to find some sort of success. In today's episode of Prime People, I have a very special guest who's going to tell you quite differently how you can actually use social media in one of the most powerful ways possible by being your authentic self. My boy Tom Challan has done some incredible things, built teams of over 40,000 people, launched a women's athleisure brand that sold over $30 million in 2021. I have listened to his sessions in Breakfast with Champions and some of his coaching sessions there. And fascinating because we're such opposites from the standpoint where I'm very structured. I'm like A plus B equals C. And especially when it comes to my marketing, I'm very strategic and, pointed at who I'm speaking to and the avatar of that person. Yet Tom is doing it at such a high level, exploded on TikTok by being authentically himself. So welcome to the Prime People podcast, Tom. I'm very excited for this one.
Well, it's an honor to be here with you, buddy. And it's been great to learn from you as well, because I'm like, oh man, I got to get more structured. So every time your segment comes up, I'm like, okay, taking notes. I got to get more structured.
Yeah, well, and I think my favorite thing about this is what I just said, right? Like, we're two opposite ends of the spectrums. Our sessions, we do them live on Friday mornings in Breakfast with Champions. Right. We're back to back. And, you inspire me to kind of get out of my box. And I think as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens the countenance of his friend. So thank you for making the time. Let's dig into the backstory first, though, the business accomplishments, the team of 40,000 people, the athleisure brand. I didn't even know that about you. So can you dig into a bit of your background and who you are?
Yeah. So my wife and I actually, ever since our entire adult life, we've always been in some sort of team building business where we market products that we believe in. It's normally, and over the last 20 some years, been nutrition. Since we were both about 19, 21 years old, we're both 50 now, which is kind of crazy. But we've always been in the leadership development, team building business. And right now, over the last 3 years, it's in a women's clothing business with athleisure wear, like yoga pants and stuff like that.
Fascinating, very focused, but you've achieved massive success there. Now, where does the TikTok story enter in, right? Because you're very well known for your escapades and the adventures that you guys have on
TikTok. So I think a lot of us listen to gurus or Gary Vaynerchuk, and Gary Vaynerchuk gets in your head and he's like, whenever there's a new platform, it's time to go all in. Prior to that, Justin, for like literally since social media has been around, prior to that, I've always been trying to be real structured and real organized and really focused and trying to figure out all the logistical ways to grow social media. And I thought when TikTok came out, I just said, you know what? None of my ideal audience is here right now. It's not aged up yet, although I know it, like almost all platforms age up, right? I said, I'm just gonna practice or flex and have, like, if I was just to let go of my brain completely and just really go after the psychology of growing a brand and a followers and likes and comments and engagement fast, what would I do? And I would just have fun and be, like you said, more vulnerable, more authentic, more goofy, more of myself, which is playful and just having fun throughout the day.
Well, it's fascinating because as you said it, you just unlocked an idea in my brain that I want you to dig into. And I do think for guys like you and I, it has always been very strategic, right? Like, what's your marketing plan? Who's your client avatar? What's your marketing budget? And that's important, right? Especially if you're building a business. But I do think that technology now, with this scale and how the algorithms work, if you have that core understanding, you realize that you can grow even faster by attracting your right people, by being more of yourself. When did you realize that? Like, when did you notice that the more you were you, the more you grew?
Oh man, it's not, well, the more, when I just started getting followers like crazy. So that, I mean, obviously that's when you knew that it worked. And I was going against the grain of what everybody else was doing, and just literally just taking the ideas that I knew would work, like catch attention quick or shock or do something crazy or do something completely out of the box. And I just kept growing and failing a lot. I mean, a lot of my videos bombed completely, but for the first time ever, I kept swinging the bat even though it felt uncomfortable. I kept swinging the bat even though it wasn't working, because I wanted to figure out faster what was failing faster, so I could figure out the psychology faster of what really works. And I found, for me at least, the mass quantity led me to figuring out the quality of what really pulls human emotion faster.
Fascinating. Actually, another friend of mine, Zach Loft, same story. I watched a recent podcast with him, and he was like, literally, he does a video and he's like, he uses the Mr. Beast strategy where every 3 to 5 seconds, he's like, new frame, new clip, new movement, moving into the camera.
Yeah.
You were really just tasting the platform and finding what worked for you. What did work? Like, what were the things that you noticed you could do?
Justin, hang on a second. All right.
Yeah, you're fine. I can carry through.
Breaking a paradigm shift is what changes things.
Okay. Interesting.
Like I just did right now.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. That's amazing.
See, I pulled you in.
Yeah.
So just having fun and practicing and creating urgency. And one of the big things I'll give you, there's so many different like ingredients. Like there's some restaurants that make burgers that are, by the way, what's your favorite food, Justin?
Pizza, without a doubt.
There's some people that make pizza out of this world. And then there's some people who don't copy the people that make it out of this world. So I just learned the right ingredients. One of those ingredients is, I call it layering.
Okay.
You probably heard this a million times on Clubhouse. And like my wife literally grew her Instagram account from one video from 5,000 people to 60,000 people from one video.
Wow.
And that one video was a trending video, a trending sound, of course, another pretty girl, but there's literally millions of pretty people on social media. So it's not just that doesn't, and I was like, honey, just take off your one shoe. She's like, no, it's so uncomfortable. That makes me feel so stupid. It's not my brand. I'm like, honey, just trust me, take off one shoe. And just like what you're doing right now, it's like, that don't make any sense. But, and it's not her perfect, I'm not saying all 60,000 people are a perfect ideal audience, but we've gotten thousands and thousands of leads and sales from that one video and from her Instagram growing, because that one video creates so much curiosity. That one video, it sparked it. So I do things, when I call layering, I do one thing or two things. Whenever I want a video to grow or have a better potential to grow, I always think of one or two things that are unexpected, that doesn't necessarily make sense to the human brain or logic, but you do something unexpected. Even if it's in your perfect niche, you could do things to shake it up a little bit.
Fascinating. So for people watching, I mean, there are real estate agents that watch this channel because one of the reasons that we've achieved success is our listing videos. And like every time I do them, I'm going to shoot them after this. I'm always like, I have to change it. Like it can't be the same as the last video because people just don't care. And breaking the pattern, what you did there, I was ready to take the podcast by myself. I thought something was going on. I'm like, oh, you're good, Tom. I'll talk about, what gets my attention from your content and set the stage. Really does make me think of the content creation differently, that, different is better than better to a certain degree, right? And where do you find inspiration though? Because I'm sure you're consuming content, looking at other creators. How's your kind of tasting and recipe building go, right?
I mean, because I don't have a lot of time to think about this, and I wouldn't call myself a creator, and I had to do it on the fly while I'm building a company. I would say the number one thing that I did was just find a video that's already viral, find a video that already pulls emotion, and just slightly use as much of what's already working in that video and just tweak it around and repackage it, and then do it with our own out of the box style.
That's super interesting. Now, when you find success though, I've seen people that are like just chasing the replication of that same success, and they don't continue to grow because they're like, well, this one thing worked, so that's all I can do. You keep it fresh. Like it's fun watching you guys having your adventures. I feel like I'm part of your family. Where does that innate curiosity come from, and how do you continue to push yourself out of the box?
Yeah, I'll be honest, it's not easy. And I'd love to say I'm at 100% of, like, if I really wanted, every day I wake up, every single day, Justin, I'm like, I'm really going to get intentional about social media right now. Mm-hmm. But what we've done still worked to a point, to almost 1 million followers on TikTok. And actually our Facebook growing faster than anything, almost 100,000 followers in the last few months. But what we do is we create, like, we'll swing the bat with content, like quantity, and we'll create a series. And I don't usually go into it thinking that I know what the series is going to be. And then when I find something that works, of course, I stay on that series because it's proven to get virality, it's proven to get followers, it's proven to get attention. But immediately, if I was smart, I would continually find, and I do this to an extent, is find the next thing that works, the next thing that works, the next thing that works.
Super interesting. You referenced Gary Vee, and I think I always watch for other industry leaders that are doing some homework, and you're a few steps ahead of the game in terms of realizing, well, you've got this big audience on TikTok. I'm going to move some of them over to Facebook. We've had conversations about YouTube. I see you guys putting in work there too. How do you think about that, right? Like sometimes people are so concerned about, well, if I lose the audience on this platform, but you seem to have a more holistic approach. where would you guide people that were thinking that they're so worried about being owned by one platform? Like, how are you guys sharing your audience or getting them to go to different platforms?
Yeah. So I've learned, because I'm super ADD, that I've got to do things in phases. And the thing that changed my life is when I learned to prune out 99% of everything my ADD wants to do. And for most people, it's the same thing. So phase one for me is, and this is the hardest part, and no one gets it, and they want more tangible training, but it's the number one thing I could tell everybody is shut your brain off. Like what's already in you will probably get better attention if you're completely vulnerable, if you're fun, if you're playful. So phase one for me is get as much content out as possible, and primarily on one platform. Like, and it may only be a week, Justin. It might be 2 weeks, but if you can't pull the psychology from Instagram Reels or TikTok or Facebook Reels, or you like, because you're like, I know this sounds so crazy. As an example, Justin, we were growing at 10,000 followers a day on TikTok. My brain slightly shifted over to Clubhouse, and I'm like, oh, I love this better. My human emotion went towards that more tangibly, and that shift crushed my volume in TikTok, because my heart started to go and fall in love with Clubhouse a little bit more. So just by trying to straddle two different psychologies, even though it's really simple, and even though I'm comfortable with both platforms, it still took a little bit of that brain share away. So I tell people, own one platform, and then immediately phase two is get a process to start taking that content. And of course, you want to spread that across the board sooner than later.
There's an intentionality behind what you just shared, right? Because when you say it crushed your volume, your production, like, did you go from 3 videos a day to 1, or 10 videos to 3?
I was going like 3 to 5 videos that were all doing decent. Like for a while, they were over 500,000 to 1 million. Sometimes almost every video for a while there, or every few videos was over 1 million. And then it just dropped down to, like, I don't even know, because I didn't pay attention to the stats, but it went from like maybe 1,000 followers to 2,000 followers, but a lot less, thousands of less followers.
And you could feel that, like, as you're putting out the content and seeing the patterns. And I understand that. I ran 2 Clubhouse rooms for a long time where I did a time audit, and I thought the room only took me 45 minutes to run, but it took me an hour to prep, an hour to run the room, and then there was an hour of fallout after, and it was killing my YouTube production. So I had to close the rooms and say, hey, I'm just focused on YouTube. So I think that's time.
I'll say this, Justin, momentum is not easily, momentum is easy to get, but it takes time to get momentum sometimes. And when you have it, go all in when you got momentum.
I think you shared something else earlier that I want to highlight, and love your opinion on how you think about this. You're getting 10,000 followers a day on these platforms. And you said, like, your wife did that video. It wasn't necessarily 60,000 or 100,000 of her ideal audience. But in my mind, when I hear that, I'm like, well, no, what that is it's 102,000 subscribers to say your email list. You may get 40,000 unsubscribes, but TikTok or Facebook is going to look at that data and be like, okay, these 40,000 people don't like her, but these 60,000 do. Let's go find more of those people. Have you seen the algorithms work like that? Like, the more you find your people, the more you find your people?
Oh man, I'm not that smart to figure that out, Justin, but I'll tell you this, that I've learned that even though our audience isn't perfectly niched towards what we do, there's still, every time we promote anything, whether it's women's athleisure or a t-shirt or a course or this, we get hundreds and hundreds of leads, because we don't promote that much.
Sure.
And there's a bunch of people that are goofy and crazy and fun and family and around our age or somewhat similar that just want to check us out, and they watch us over and over, that whenever we want to share something of value, or, we do it very creatively and subtly, we get so many leads and sales from it.
Well, jab, 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 right hook is behind me. It's always been a principle. I just shot my mark out today. And like, I'm the anti-real estate agent. Like, I love it. Don't care if you work with me or not. I'm going to give you all the info. I'm sure I'll prove to you I'm good enough and you'll want to work with me. That anti-sales is why I think you guys are so attractive, and you build that kind of loyal audience and community. Because I think it's more than sales, right? Like, I think it's more than let's find the ideal audience avatar in this human being. Like, you're genuinely creating a community, right? Like, do you feel like you have a little city that is your own little city and all these people live in it?
Yeah, it's crazy. And what's really wild is sometimes people don't even, like, they'll see you somewhere else and they're like, I don't know how I know you. And it's facial recognition. People remember, even if they don't necessarily remember exactly which video they saw you from, but it's crazy how that it repeats and they can get to know you over time.
Well, it's been really cool to watch as a friend too, is you guys making this transition now too, where you're living out of the country, you're creating your ultimate life. Like I see you kind of working through the process as well. Give people a snapshot of how you look at your holistic life right now, where you guys are based out of, what your daughters are doing. I'd like people to understand really that freedom you've unlocked for yourself through your journey.
Yeah, we've just learned we do everything. We love residual income, so we do businesses around residual income, and our social media to us. If we've learned something, we're in an era in 2022 that not a lot of people understand, Justin, and that is the more that you learn to live and not BS your
Yep.
social media, not pretend. Like I think that most people, including myself for years, it's such a fabrication of just like trying to give birth to content that you really don't want to put out, or that's really boring, it's really not fun, and you really don't want to sit in your office with your light shining on your face all damn day long. I just got sick of it, to be honest. So I just wanted to go out and make my content the way that I'd want to live life. And to be honest, we're at about 15% of that right now. The audience that we're getting is we're at about 15%. So we're still learning to walk out living more. We're still in that battle of working in the home office and trying to scale a company and do all the logistical things in the office. But if it was up to me, we're learning how to automate almost everything and leverage everything so we can create a brand really around living and then attract people to any product or service that we want to promote thereafter.
What's important to you when it comes to living?
Oh, for us, it's our faith first, for sure. And our family, my marriage, been married for 25 years, and my 4 daughters, and then my friends, which is my family as well. And then my fitness. We have this thing where are you fit enough to change the world, Justin? And most people aren't. And then of course we want to create ridiculous wealth for us and our team and our partners, like absurd, like at your best wealth, because we got a purpose-driven thing that we want to do to change the world together. So we're creating a community of world changers that want to be at their absolute best and do it as best they can in the order of their priorities.
Well, you just ordered some priorities too, where work wasn't even really a part of them, right? The work, it's fascinating because you list those priorities, and I align with you 100%. Faith has to be in the right place. My family has to be where it is. My fitness has to be where it is so I could serve the other ones. And my work becomes a conduit to that, right? Like I happen to be in the real estate industry and people let me in their houses. I use that as a conduit to everything else. But, how do you even start to climb that hill of looking at, well, how can I integrate faith into what I'm doing from a business perspective, residual income, and unlock that part of your life? Because so often the authentic person that we are takes a back seat to, I got to pay the mortgage, I got to pay for the car, I got to pay for this, that, and the other. Like, how do you navigate that? And how did you twist that around and put those items before typical rat race?
We're still figuring that part of it out right now. We're still in what I would call phase 1. Phase 1 is just, what can I do on the fly in my day normally that I'm normally doing? So sometimes we'll integrate fitness, but it's very minimal. So I'm just practicing other series that we'll be bringing in.
Sure.
And then our phase 2 or maybe even phase 3 is where we'll start parlaying niche channels out, and we get more coaching from people like you who are really good at that, better than us. And we're like, hey, Justin, how do I really get niche, and how do I go after my avatar and my ideal audience? So we're going to start segmenting that here pretty soon. But right now we're just opening more parts of our life up with, now that we're getting in shape, more fitness. We're going to be traveling around the world here very soon. So we'll be opening more parts of that up.
Reminds me of Alex Hormozi's story, because he was in cybersecurity and he just loved working out. So he's like, I'm just going to start a business around what I absolutely love to do. And look at what he's doing now, right? Like he's in acquisitions and M&As and just taking equity in companies that he has a direct interest in. It sounds like the same path. You asked about getting coaching and building these niche channels. Like you already understand the dynamics of how the platforms work. You've just done such a great job doing it authentically and organically. Let's loop back to that for a little bit, because that's really the value you want to give people. Yeah, when you say being your authentic self and creating content around that, the strategy makes a ton of sense. But how did you build that muscle? Like, I'm going to do 3 to 5 pieces of content. Here are the topics I'm going to do. It's not structured. It's on the fly. Give people an idea of where they can look for their own authenticity.
All right. So check this out. Warren Buffett says it. I'm just going to repeat it. He said, to be the #1 investor in the world and to create ultra wealth, you need to take your IQ and cut it down about 50+%. There's something, and the reason why it's not about being stupid, it's about not being over smart or over analyzing or overthinking. Because we don't, I mean, our brains are so powerful. We already know what to do, but fear and ego and control cloudies that to thinking that we're not good enough, or thinking we have to be perfect or have perfect lighting and all that shit. So again, shut your brain off is the number one thing that I will tell people. And it's just learning how to be like Steve Irwin. You know who Steve Irwin is, Justin?
Crocodile Hunter. Right?
Like, look, when you are intentional about seeing a great, like you are Steven Spielberg. And if you go watch Crocodile Hunter and think of Steven Spielberg, there is an interesting story everywhere around you. A flea is flying around. How can you make that flea a part of your story for your social media? How can you, like, when you open your mind, it's a muscle that you have to flex. That muscle is you are the greatest storyteller. And every piece of content that you deliver, people are dying to see. And it's not an egotistical perspective, because if you don't think that you're in demand and your content's going to be great and you're expecting to be great, it's hard to get out of your ego or control or what are people going to think or all that criticism. And you're at risk a little bit, especially with my content, to look a little weird sometimes. And again, everybody's got their own niche content, but the biggest thing I will tell you is learn to tell a story on almost anything. Like if I know it can convert to anything, even though mine's more lifestyle and fitness and, you know, relationships and kids and raising daughters, you could do this in any niche you want to, and learn how to tell a more interesting real estate story or a more interesting, whatever that may be, story.
Have you ever read Building a Story Brand?
I did briefly, I think I did, but
yeah.
I guess I didn't. I got
audiobooks or paperback, just out of curiosity.
I have it. I know I have it. I don't know if I fully read it.
Okay, well, I'm going to send you a copy. RR, can you make sure to remind me to send one to Tom? One of my favorite books, and I think you just touched on the way that I tend to think about our content. Every listing I do, every time I shoot a video, what's the hero or what's the challenge within that video? What's the story? What are the attributes of the house? And how is that interesting and different than everything else? And it makes it fun. And I think at the heart of your content, you guys are genuinely fun people to be around. And you're like, yeah, maybe make me look a little bit weird. We're all a little bit weird. And anybody that says they're not, I think is lying to themselves, right? And I think you bring the personality out in your content. And I think it attracts other people that are like, yeah, I do that too. Or I'm kind of like that. Or like the way I look at my wife and the way I look at my family and my faith, like I can see a synergy in between Tom and myself. Maybe I don't live where you live. Maybe I'm not doing the things that you do, but I really
come visit.
Yeah. So where are you guys based out of? Just so the audience knows.
We're right here.
Oh my goodness.
We are in Puerto Rico.
What drove that change for you guys?
You know what? We were going to travel the world. We also, the quick story is we have 4 daughters that are all 19 and older. One got married, and we said, come travel the world with us. We'll pay for a year to go on a mission trip wherever you want to go in the world, or figure it out. And 2 of them are on a mission trip. One got married, and one's plugged into the church in San Diego, where we're from. So, and then my wife and I were going to go travel the world together, or with the kids, whoever wanted to come with us. And then a friend said, come to Puerto Rico and check it out. And we just landed here and stayed with their house right down the street, and just found out some of the top podcasters, like John Lee Dumas's house. I don't know if I should say this, but it's like literally right there. And some of the top entrepreneurs, podcasters, crypto people, investors, real estate, are all conjugated on this small island in small pockets. And so it's almost like having a 24-hour a day mastermind every day and getting to hang out with people without paying 50, 100 grand for their mastermind.
It's wild. And I think relationship and relationship capital is one of the most valuable resources out there, right? And people could say, well, I'm going to go live in New York City, or I'm going to live in Toronto or Montreal. It's like, well, what is your day-to-day like? Like, what's your net effective gain being there versus being somewhere else, right? And it's fascinating that you're saying this. I have a connection in the Bahamas doing some incredible stuff down there too. And I'm like, it's a global village. Like, look at us. We've spent probably hundreds of hours together at this point. And I feel like I know you, and I've never actually met you in person.
First time face-to-face, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And I think it's such a fascinating concept. And you're obviously searching for people that inspire you. Where did that come from? Like, what was Tom like as a kid? Were you always like this?
Oh my gosh, Justin, I grew up with a Hell's Angel biker dad in the bars on the weekends.
Wow.
And when you went through the hallways of high school, people used to high-five me, my name, which was stupid. I literally thought I was the stupidest kid in high school. And I was super AD and slow learning classes, took the short bus and the least likely to succeed. And I think I made more money than every single person, except for one guy who inherited a big car dealership. So, no, my upbringing was very selfish, angry, controlling, ego, just not healthy. And it's taken me years and years to unravel the programming of poverty mindset, of fear, of insecurity, of control, of all of that shit that most people still carry around, different versions of that. And people always say, well, that's not me. I go, then if you aren't holding on to past programming, then all of us should be compounding wealth, crazy freedom, massive leverage, more customers and sales than we know what to do within a lifetime, because we're loving and we're serving like never before. But we have those blocks. And that sounds crazy, Justin. And my social media isn't a perfect representation of exactly all the pillars of my life yet, but it was just me practicing and having fun, getting out of my own head for the first time and just having fun with something.
You got to strive towards something, right? And what a different life you would have lived if you stayed in that mindset of poverty and fear and control. And I hear you say that, and I know so many people that I admire that really broke through those barriers and became a different version of themselves, myself included. I could have been dead in a ditch or in jail somewhere at some point in my life. What helped you break through? Like, what was that first glimmer of, oh, there's a different world out there for me?
Well, I'll just give you that really fast. Number one, it was personal growth, listening to Zig Ziglar and Tom Hopkins and all those kind of old school Jim Rohn kind of mentors. But they kept talking about God. They kept bringing up this God thing. And I'm like, yeah, F that. Just teach me how to get rich and get laid. But they kept talking about this God thing, which opened the door because I was an anti-Christian. And then one day I was in a business seminar and there was an optional worship service at that business seminar with Tom Hopkins, #1 sales trainer in the world back in those olden days. And he said, if you want to know the true power, it's through faith and your relationship with Jesus. And that's where I became a Christian. So personal growth, becoming a Christian are the two things, and just really diving into what are my blind spots? What do I not know that I don't know that I'm still holding on to, that I need to learn to let go through mentorship and different perspectives and my faith and all those things. I'll just say this. How did I know about being around here? To be honest, it sounds crazy. We all hear the blah, blah of you need to be around your 5 closest people. Like because of ego, we think like all our friends are really ballers, and they're amazing humans that are all making, like for me, it was like multiple 6 figures and some were making 7 figures. But man, when you're around people that really make you stretch, you really realize that you need to continually up level. And it's not about a money thing. It's about what are humans doing. And what's crazy, Justin, the more that I'm around ultra wealthy people that are around Puerto Rico and here, billionaires and 100-millionaire people that are selling their company, the more that I'm around these people, the more that I'm like, oh my gosh, all they do is they would just want to give. Like when they find out you sell athleisure, they don't just want to buy like my millionaire or my 6-figure earner friends do. They're like, here's my database. Here, this person probably wants it. Here, let me send a link over here. Let me email out to my client list. Like they want you to get richer. They want to pull you up. They want to serve you at the highest level. It's mind blowing in how much the higher you go, the more they want to help you go where they're at.
I can tell you from personal experience when I meet those people, and I tell this to everybody, I'm like, I want to get around these types of people. And how did you make that connection, this connection? I'm like, well, I got around them. They gave me a challenge. I implemented what they told me to do, and then it worked. And then they saw the success and then gave them another challenge. And like the proximity to the people like that, the coolest thing is they're not really fancy. They technically live very clean lives where you just see a high level of focus and energy deployment. But what I don't see them stand for is people that are just parasitic, trying to get in their network, won't actually do the things or aren't willing to do the work. There's a very different thing of, them letting somebody like you in and then you implementing and them giving you another tool set and be like, all right, he did that with that. Now I'm going to let him do this. Right. And it's almost like they're playing a game where they're coaching a sports team or an athlete, and you just keep executing and they keep showing you different levels. Right. And I think that's been really cool. You've definitely leveled up multiple times throughout your life, but knowing what you know now and being in proximity to the people you're in proximity to, what's exciting you or what's scary that you're learning that you've never done before? I'd love to know kind of.
That's such a good question, Justin. I'm learning that the blind spot has always been I'm not good enough to scale to over 10 million a year. I've always get to a few million a year with mostly in the network marketing or sales model.
Okay.
And I can always build a team of three to five people. But then I always would either sabotage it, or I wasn't ready to go to the next level because of too distracted and to bring. Anyways, the bottom line is this: I fully believe we can do similar to like Alex Hermosian, like you mentioned earlier, and that we can be just like all the other people that are out here that are imperfect, building $10 million a year companies, 20 million, $100 million companies. So I'm really excited about building a company around world changers and transforming people's lives to be at their best, which means I got to step up and really focus on shedding the blind spots and figuring out who I got to bring in the best people in the world to fulfill the partners that I need to help me scale the company so we can do some big things together. So it's scaling a purpose-driven company for the rest of my life. I just hit 50, but we're acting like we're 25. And for the next 25 years, how do we have a marriage that's a storybook marriage? How do we build our fitness to where we have enough energy to change the world together? And how do we get wealthy enough that we can solve some pretty big problems together as a family, and on and on.
The way that you guys live your life, I think 50 is the new 20. So we're going to dig into that. I want to know a couple of your core health principles, because I think that's such an interesting facet of who you guys are. And I think a lot of people can get value from that. But I do want to highlight before I get to that you have this clarity of purpose, right? Of what you want to accomplish. You said it 3 or 4 times in this episode. Is that a habit that you developed of repeating things to yourself so it ingrains in who you are? And I guess, is there a strategy behind that? Is it thoughtful? I've noticed it and I wanted to highlight it.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Strategy for what part?
Well, you keep repeating that, this is what I want to accomplish. This is what I want to accomplish. I feel like, do you journal it every day? Is it on your wall? Is it?
Yeah. I mean, our core focus, there's a song that transformed, that's just so powerful, in about 1 million dreams on, what's that series? The Greatest Showman, 1 million dreams.
Yeah.
So our purpose is to take 1 million people's dreams, and we're creating a community and a culture that is all around being your best when it comes to creating wealth, but doing it while having a life around your priorities. So we want to help pull together 1 million dreams, and we're raising up a community called World Changers. So we focus on just focusing on what that looks like every single day, and then what kind of infrastructure and team that we need to do to be able to service that.
Man, I feel super blessed to have people like you in my life. I've interviewed Chris Do. He's the same thing. He wants to affect 1 billion people's lives. He's in the design space, completely different. But I think of what a world we can create if you get different people doing different things in different areas with a clarity of purpose. Anybody that wants to connect with Tom, feel free to jump into any of the links below. You can definitely find him on Instagram, TikTok, many of the other platforms. Lisanne, thank you for joining the live stream. Yes, definitely inspiring as well. And then Christian Conciatori also said, Mr. Clubhouse. I think they're referring to you, Tom, for sure. I want to get into a rapid fire round of questions for you before I get you out of here.
Let's go.
I said I was going to ask you questions about health and wellness. What are the biggest things you've learned? Because you act like you're 25 years old. You got energy for days. What's the secret? Like, what are the key things that you try and do? There you go.
Oura ring.
Okay, there you go.
It tracks your sleep. Like, if you don't know what your sleep is, you're in denial of getting deep sleep and REM sleep. Your deep sleep is one of the only ways in the world as you get older that you can detox the brain. And if your brain keeps accumulating stress in the crap that we build up throughout the day, especially stress, then you're in trouble. So sleep is the biggest thing in the last 2 years has changed my life to give me more energy, more hormone boost than anything else. I would say number 2 is, if you're deficient in something, life can suck. Like if you're deficient in hormones or testosterone, or you have too much estrogen, not enough D3, too much B12, not enough B12. If you have a broken chromosome, the bottom line is you need to make enough money to create what I call the Superhuman Checklist. And how do you know what that is? You interview, I think it's Gary Brecka, and 10X Health, and people like that. They're at the pinnacle of their life when it comes to what are the things that we need to do from a physical perspective. And don't put your health under the rug thinking you're going to feel better tomorrow unless you do something about it. So I'm just learning my wife and I have this crazy superhuman checklist of how to just make sure that we eat in the best foods and sleep in the best, and learning how to, we're creating a sanctuary here, a really killer, with cold plunge and red therapy and oxygen, all these crazy bio fun hacking things. Like we have a cold plunge that I go into 2-3 times a day that boosts your dopamine like twice as much.
I don't know if I've ever told you this. I need like a full blown hip replacement, right? Like genetic kind of freak. And I was literally looking at blue cubes and like the price of them. It seems insane, but like the quality of life difference you get being in cold plunges. I have an infrared sauna that I use, and that's amazing. But there's so many facets to taking care of your health that give you the energy to be able to accomplish things at an ultra high level and become superhuman. I think there's a clear through line for you guys to put that out as a document or a course or that checklist. I would pay to see what that was. The sleep component, like what time do you go to bed? Do you have a sleep routine that you do before you go to sleep? That, like, give me a little bit of an insight into how you get good sleep.
Yeah. So for me, because my sleep is so inefficiently, unfortunately, I got to go to bed. If I want really good sleep, I got to be in bed by 9 because only because I wake up so much throughout the day because I'm still learning about my cortisol and my blood sugar and spikes and all the bad habits. Like it takes time to learn to reprogram and to get your body in. Coffee, like if you have coffee for most of you, I mean, everybody says, oh, I could do coffee and still go to sleep. Bullshit. I'm telling you, you may be able to go to sleep, but if you look at your Oura ring and you see your heartbeats 10 beats higher per minute, you're not getting restful sleep. Alcohol, that's one thing I haven't shed yet. Sure. Every time I have alcohol, my heart beats 10 beats higher per minute, and I do not get the REM sleep that I think I am. I still sleep good because everybody says you still sleep good, which you can, but you're not getting the quality of sleep. So just knowing these things can save your life or give you 10 years of better vitality on your life.
I love that so much. I could literally talk to you for hours and just pick
your brain. I love this topic.
See that? I got my Whoop strap.
Yeah,
I use it all the time. I've used it for years.
Same thing.
So critical. Yeah.
Whoop straps, same thing.
Okay. I got to do the rapid fire question because I'm getting to the end of the episode.
All right, brother.
I feel like if I keep going, we're going to go until 3 o'clock. Up to this point in your life, Tom, what is the greatest lesson that you have learned?
Get feedback from brutally honest people faster so as an example, my pastor, to work with him, he's a multimillionaire. He said, show me your taxes, show me your finances. I want to see if you're a cheat.
Wow.
And I've been a cheat and I never wanted to admit it. I'm like, yeah, I lie on my this, that, or there. I do this, I overdo this. So I'm just learning how to I'm learning to get feedback on areas my ego would normally never allow, so I can get better, faster, and figure out what are the resources to not have those stupid human blind spots my whole life.
Man, get friends that will be honest with you too and hold you accountable.
And not just friends. It might take, someone who's like at a high level of whatever you want to get better at.
I love that so much. Great advice. How has failure shaped your life?
Oh man, I just wrote down, the best way to hit goals faster is to learn to embrace really hard failure and challenges and challenging situations and emotional butt hurts and people that are going to criticize you. How do you get through that faster? And so the failure is just, you learn to embrace it and it's normal. And instead of, I would always hide from it, and you can't hide from it. You just got to learn to deal with the emotion of failure and learn to just learn how to process it faster and move and shift gears faster.
Well, this brings us right to the beginning of the episode where you're like, just try everything and then figure out what works, right? Like ultimately that's how you blew up on TikTok, is you tried everything and then kept what worked and scrapped what didn't, right?
Yep.
Last, most important question, since you made the time for me and my audience, how can we add value to you? Where can I drive people to? Is there something that's important to you right now? My platform is yours. I would love for you to tell me one interesting thing about your life by going to Instagram, preferably, and or Facebook. My handles across the board are my name. It's Tom, and then my last name's Challan, Challan. Go DM me and tell me you have ADD and you've overcome it, or you're a millionaire going to 2 million, or so just say whatever, say something about it, or just say hi. Just let me know that you're here throughout the day or the week or watching the replay of this next year. I would just love to have you pop in and say hi. I'm very engaging and I'd love to meet you. Well, my goal is to grow this channel to millions and millions of viewers. Come on, let's do it together. I'm literally just a people connector, right? I'm not the source, but I like interviewing interesting people. I'm sure this isn't the last time we're going to have a conversation, Tom. We're together every Friday mornings. You can come meet him live on Clubhouse on Breakfast with Champions. I will drop replays and clips of this, and you will not be able to get away from his content. Please click the link in the show notes. Go over to Instagram, send him a DM, go follow what his family's doing. I will be for sure, Tom, and I'll see you on the next episode for sure. You're a great interview, Justin. It's an honor to be here with you, brother. Appreciate you, man. See you tomorrow morning. See you, brother. All right.